Have you ever looked at a world leader and thought, how on earth did they end up in charge? You're not alone. From emperors who burned cities out of boredom to modern politicians who can't spell diplomacy, history is littered with baffling examples of fools at the helm. But here's the twist: what if foolishness isn't a bug in the system, but a feature? Stick around, because in this deep dive we'll unravel the dirty mechanics of power through the lens of Niccolò Machiavelli, lost Eastern philosophies, rare African tribal logic, and even cybernetic political theory. Trust me, by the end, you won't look at leadership the same way again. And if you like where this is going, hit that subscribe button. We expose truth with edge, every time. Niccolò Machiavelli, the infamous Florentine political theorist, is often misunderstood as a cheerleader for ruthless tyranny. But in truth, he wasn't glorifying power, he was vivisecting it. In The Prince, he strips leadership of its romanticized virtues and reveals it as a game of optics and survival. According to Machiavelli, rulers need not be wise, virtuous, or even competent in any traditional sense. They merely need to seem so. Appearances, not actions, govern perception, and perception governs power. In his cold calculus, success belongs not to those who are genuinely good, but to those who can convincingly fake it. For Machiavelli, the theater of politics is more important than its substance, the mask is more powerful than the face beneath it. Competence becomes secondary, even dangerous if it threatens to unveil uncomfortable truths. Control, manipulation, and narrative, these are the true currencies of power. This leads us to Machiavelli's first and perhaps most unsettling insight, that people are not reliable judges of truth or virtue. He argued that the masses often prefer the illusion of wisdom over wisdom itself. Why? Because reality is complex, often painful, and demands introspection. Illusion, on the other hand, is comforting. It offers clear answers, easy villains, and a sense of security, even if it's built on lies. Most people, Machiavelli believed, don't want truth, they want reassurance. And so, a loud fool who promises safety, prosperity, or restored greatness will almost always outshine the quiet genius who offers hard truths wrapped in nuance. The demagogue doesn't have to be right, he only needs to be confident. In the political arena, sincerity and clarity often lose to performance and charisma. What is tragic is not that lies are told, but that they are preferred. Fast forward to our era, and Machiavelli's insight doesn't just remain relevant, it feels prophetic. But he wasn't the only one who saw the peril of spectacle over substance. Lao Tzu, writing centuries earlier in the Tao Te Ching, issued a quiet warning from the East: the more rules and regulations, the more thieves and robbers. The message was simple but profound: overgovernance breeds corruption. Complexity, when misused, becomes a smokescreen. Laws pile up not to serve justice, but to confuse it. And in this confusion, predators thrive. It is in chaos that those who understand the mechanics of manipulation can ascend. They don't seek to solve problems but to exploit them. Whether in a collapsing empire or a hyper-regulated modern state, confusion becomes a ladder for opportunists. The system doesn't need fixing, they just need to learn how to game it. Across the world in West Africa, oral traditions speak of a phenomenon that adds a new dimension to this pattern: idiotic charisma. In countless tribal fables, the fool becomes king not because of his intellect or virtue, but precisely because he lacks both. His ignorance makes him non-threatening. He is not feared, he is managed. Behind his throne stand the real power players, warlords, merchants, elders, who find in him the perfect puppet. His charisma is unintentional, accidental, but potent nonetheless. People laugh at him, underestimate him, even pity him, but they follow him. His public blunders become signs of authenticity. His incompetence becomes interpreted as innocence. And in his foolishness, the cunning find a shield, a mask behind which they orchestrate power plays. His reign may be disastrous, but it is incredibly useful to those pulling the strings. Psychology lends further clarity to this phenomenon. The Dunning-Kruger effect, named after the researchers who discovered it in 1999, shows that those with the least ability are often the most confident in their competence. They lack the metacognitive skills to assess their own ignorance. In politics, this becomes dangerous. The ignorant don't just mislead others, they believe in their own delusions. They run for office because they don't realize how unqualified they are. They crave power because they think they deserve it. Meanwhile, those with genuine expertise hesitate. They second-guess. They understand the vastness of what they don't know. And so, the field tilts toward the unqualified. Over time, entire systems are run by people who confuse their impulses with insight, their arrogance with authority. The result is not just bad policy, it's institutionalized ignorance. History offers countless case studies of this dangerous dynamic, but few are more vivid than Caligula, the Roman emperor whose reign remains one of the most grotesque spectacles of unchecked power. Popular accounts portray him as insane, appointing his horse as a priest, executing senators on a whim, and waging war against the sea itself. Madness, yes, but there may have been method in it. Recent interpretations suggest Caligula wasn't just mad, he was theatrical. He used absurdity as a strategic tool. His unpredictability disoriented enemies, silenced dissent, and elevated his myth. No one could anticipate his next move, which made him more dangerous than a logical tyrant. He governed through psychological warfare, using spectacle to destabilize opposition. His madness wasn't just a flaw, it was a weapon. The line between insanity and strategy blurred, and in that ambiguity, Caligula ruled. Machiavelli would have recognized Caligula immediately, not as a failure of leadership, but as a master of it. To him, Caligula represented a dangerous archetype, the fool-ass king who turns unpredictability into power. People fear what they can't predict. They fear a genius because he might outthink them, but they fear a fool because they can't decode him. There is no rationale to prepare for, no logic to exploit. The fool becomes chaos incarnate. And in politics, chaos can be a tool. It creates hesitation, confusion, paralysis. While rivals waste time trying to interpret the madness, the madman acts. And in that gap between comprehension and action, power consolidates. Machiavelli might even argue that in a world governed by perception, feigned madness is the most rational strategy of all. The concept of controlled madness as a strategy wasn't limited to Rome. In medieval Japan, the samurai employed a principle known as kyoki no ken, the sword of madness. Feigning insanity in battle or negotiation, they unsettled opponents, broke expectations, and masked their true intentions. It was psychological warfare wrapped in ritual and honor. But over time, the line between act and reality blurred. As real fools began to imitate these tactics, some were elevated to leadership by mistake. Their unpredictability, once a deliberate maneuver, became genuine incompetence. Yet the results were sometimes the same: confusion, deference, fear. And so, a tradition that began as high-level strategy devolved into unintentional success for the foolish. The lesson: in a world that rewards chaos, even an idiot can look like a tactician. The 20th century brought new tools to understand this pattern, cybernetics among them. Thinkers like Stafford Beer argued that complex systems, including governments, naturally evolve towards self-preservation. They do not reward change, they resist it. Reformers threaten the system's equilibrium, so the bureaucracy prefers predictable incompetence. The mediocre are safe, they won't destabilize anything. A truly capable leader might ask dangerous questions, dismantle inefficiencies, or expose corruption. And so, systems quietly select for those who won't rock the boat. The result is a government filled with well-dressed seat warmers. They give speeches, cut ribbons, and keep the machine running, badly, but steadily. And in this inertia, the system survives. Intelligence becomes a liability, docility becomes a virtue. Hannah Arendt famously wrote that evil is often banal, it wears a human face, fills out forms, and follows orders. But what she didn't fully explore was how often the banal are also the ignorant. The real architects of oppression don't always wear uniforms or hold guns. Sometimes, they're clueless leaders who stumble into power, unaware of the consequences of their actions. And that ignorance makes them perfect tools for those who do understand the game. A fool in power draws less scrutiny. His actions are excused as mistakes, his policies as blunders. But behind him, shadowy figures move unchecked. He is the mask, the distraction. His lack of awareness makes him the ideal cover for agendas darker and far more deliberate. Evil thrives not just on malice, but on stupidity. A chilling real-world example is Francisco Macias Nguema, the first president of Equatorial Guinea. In 1979, he banned the word intellectual, shut down schools, and burned libraries. Under his rule, reason itself became a threat. His regime was so absurd it bordered on surrealism. Yet it endured, because the absurdity was strategic. It confused opposition, paralyzed logic, and made resistance feel futile. His foolishness became armor. If there was no logic, there was nothing to counter. No rational system to dismantle, just madness. And in that vacuum, terror reigned. His ignorance didn't make him weak. It made him unpredictable. And unpredictability is power, especially when cloaked in violence. The lesson: a fool can be far more dangerous than a tyrant who knows exactly what he's doing. In contemporary politics, we often hear voters defend demagogues with the phrase, "He tells it like it is." But this usually translates to, "He lacks nuance and isn't afraid of it." The rawness feels refreshing, especially in an era of media-trained candidates and empty rhetoric. But bluntness is not wisdom. It's just noise without depth. What passes for honesty is often just a lack of understanding. And yet, it resonates. Why? Because many people equate confidence with competence. They mistake simplicity for clarity. And so, politicians rise not by being right, but by being loud, relatable, and unfiltered. Courage is confused with ignorance. Authenticity is reduced to aggression. And the result is a new political archetype, the anti-intellectual leader who wears his foolishness like a badge of honor. Buddhist philosophy, particularly from the Madhyamaka school, offers a profound metaphor for this. Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form. What appears solid, permanent, or powerful may be hollow at its core. And what seems like nothingness may be pregnant with possibility. Apply this to leadership, and you see a troubling truth: the trappings of power, flags, titles, speeches, can mask an internal vacuum. A politician may project authority while possessing no substance. And yet, that hollowness is not passive. It is a vessel, a tool. Empty leaders become screens onto which others project their hopes, fears, and ideologies. Their hollowness creates room for manipulation. They are symbols, not strategists. And symbols can be more dangerous than leaders with actual agendas. Even democracy, which prides itself on reasoned governance, is not immune. In fact, it may be uniquely vulnerable. Democracies reward visibility, not virtue. Charisma, not competence. The electoral process has evolved into a popularity contest, an arena where reality shows bleed into campaigns. A camera-savvy fool outshines a thoughtful genius who lacks sound bites. The candidate with the best branding, not the best ideas, often wins. And so, elections no longer select for wisdom. They select for performance. The democratic ideal of rational self-governance is slowly eroded by a media landscape that prioritizes spectacle. The genius remains in the shadows, while the fool dances in the spotlight, and wins. If Machiavelli were alive today, he wouldn't be surprised, he'd be vindicated. He would smirk at the chaos and say, "Of course the fool wins." He doesn't compete in the moral arena. He plays the survival game. While pundits debate integrity and values, the fool is building a brand. He isn't weighed down by consistency, or ethics, or shame. He adapts, performs, provokes. And voters, driven by emotion more than logic, reward the show. They don't want discomfort. They want affirmation. A smart candidate challenges their assumptions. A foolish one flatters them. And in the end, the masses choose comfort over truth. Always have. Perhaps always will. So where does that leave us? If the foolish rise, is the game rigged? Not exactly. It's more like the rules reward the wrong skills. In a society obsessed with image, deception becomes currency. The loudest, not the wisest, takes the throne. But don't despair. Understanding this pattern is power. Once you see it, you can break it. Demand better. Reward depth, not noise. And maybe, just maybe, start judging leaders not by how confident they sound, but how much they listen. So next time you see a leader who seems wildly unqualified, remember, they might not have slipped into power by accident. They may be the symptom of a system that selects for foolishness. And if you want to change that, start by asking, who taught us to worship clowns and ignore philosophers? This is the Beyond the Surface channel. Like the video, share it with a friend and subscribe for more videos like this one. Thank you for watching.